All right, folks, we are live. I don't know. We'll have to wait for Jerry. I still don't quite see what's going on with Jerry, but Julianne, you look better outside of the hallway.
I know I was sitting on the floor in the hallway. And
You got a better setting now.
that's
Today is May the 17th, and the title I chose for tonight was almost the same as the other night, but I called it Family Law in Courts for the Love of Children, Power, or Money. And it's a very difficult question. I really want Jerry to be here. Do you know anything about how to figure out why we can't hear him?
I don't see his name. Oh, Jerry, there he, okay, I see him. That's Jerry, right?
That's Jerry. Yes,
I
that is
see him. I just can't hear him.
He has
Oh,
slightly less uh, hair up here than I do, and slightly more hair down here than I do.
see,
But
I thought there was that he was another gentleman. I didn't see his name on there, and I thought he had not appeared. I don't see, and I have no idea.
we've still got to get you a better camera because you're kind of fuzzy.
See, it's because I'm using my computer again. I could try to log in from my phone.
Don't worry. No. I mean, you are just stunningly beautiful, and we need to see
You know,
every detail of you.
I tried to log in through my phone, and this is what came on. It was like an error. It was, I was
Oh,
having difficulties.
don't worry about it.
Next time.
Tell you what, why don't you call Jerry and see if that will inspire him?
Yeah, but he's on there. He's trying, right?
Yes, he is, but this is weird.
So
He's-
maybe, so on the bottom screen, there's a mute button on the lower left corner. There's a mute button, and then there's a video. So you just make sure that mute button that is, make sure the mute is not accidentally pressed.
I just texted you his number. Why don't you give him a call? See if you can, because this will at least create some dialogue here.
Okay. Okay. Thirsty.
Sorry, folks.
Jerry, hi, it's Julianne. I'm attempting to help you. I don't know if I can be of any help, but are you seeing anything on the bottom of your screen, like the mute microphone or video camera? It's not muted. Oh, okay. Did you check your volume? Maybe it's your computer volume is low. Do you know how to check your computer volume? Okay. Can we still not hear? Still don't hear? I don't think we hear you on there.
You can hear me fine, right, Julianne?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so the problem is, and I can hear you, and I can hear you. So the problem is clearly on Jerry's end.
Still. Okay, you can hear us, but we can't hear you. But we want to hear you. I don't know. Do you have a Mac or a PC? Okay. I have a Mac, you know, so it's a little different. I don't know. My computer is just using the built-in microphone. And then there's like a way, yeah. I don't know. Do you see a settings tab where you can adjust the input volume and the output volume? There should be a settings. like settings and then sound, if there's like a sound button in the settings. Did you click on the sound button? No, but like my question is like, is there a settings tab where you can adjust the settings? I'm just trying to think about a PC. In the upper left or the lower left, there should be like a drop down menu where you can look at the computer settings or system preferences. Do you see a system preferences somewhere?
Well, I went to the systems thing.
You're on.
Oh, you're on. We're on. Okay, great. We can
Well,
hear it.
okay.
Great. Don't touch anything else. That's great.
All right. Okay. With that embarrassing little introit, Jerry and Julianne, I'd like you to introduce you to each other. I know you've talked on the telephone at least once, but Jerry, I think you can hang up your phone now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, Jerry O'Neill, this is Julianne Michelle Reeves Stroh, and this is Jerry O'Neill in Columbia Falls, Montana. And
Montana.
I was reflecting earlier on how you were both on the opposite ends of opposite sides of the country, both on the Canadian states on the Canadian border, whereas the only border Louisiana is on is the Gulf of Mexico.
I loved visiting Montana. It's such a beautiful state.
Your town's a little bigger than mine.
It is, but I just love the natural beauty of Montana. There's nothing like it. It's beautiful.
I have the suspicion that at least population wise, her zip code is bigger than Montana.
Maybe.
Might be. Well, we've got over 1 million people in Montana.
Do you have over 1 million people in 10021? You might.
Probably. Most people you wouldn't want to know here, so.
Well, anyhow, Jerry, the title I chose for tonight was Family Courts and Family Law for Love of Children, Power, or Money. And I thought that what I'd like Julianne to do basically is introduce herself and her foundation to you. Then we can basically examine and cross-examine this beautiful creature find out exactly what she wants to do and what she has learned from her exposure to the family courts. And then you can tell her a little bit of what you've learned. And of course, I've learned absolutely nothing in 62 years, so I'll keep my mouth shut.
I doubt that.
Julianne, you have the floor.
You want me to start?
Yes, I do.
Well, personal reasons brought me into family court, and it wasn't by choice. I was just thrust into it. I had no knowledge or experience of what it would be like. There was no manual or book. And I thought that in the United States of America, I thought that truth and evidence and testimony, I thought that meant something. But I was wrong, and I learned the hard way that it seems like justice is bought in this country, and whoever has the most access to money and power can buy justice, but justice is not accessible to everybody in this country. And that's what I learned. And I formed Mommy's Heart. I started Mommy's Heart. We are a pending 501c3, and we are dedicated to providing free legal representation and free mental health services to fit mothers and children who have been subjected to intimate partner violence and who have been victimized by the weaponization and civil rights violation of the court system. So it's a very special niche that we're serving, but it is such a great need that has not been met. There are so many mothers, and what is so fascinating about this is that this issue, this systemic issue, does not discriminate. It is affecting mothers across, and these are fit mothers. These are not drug addicts. These are not criminals or violent women. These are loving, safe, fit mothers who were never charged of neglect or abuse or ever arrested for a crime or for violence. Most of us have one thing in common. We were accused of parental alienation, and somewhere along the line, someone made an allegation, and we were blamed for that allegation. Lots of false, it's just in family court, hearsay is permissible. I didn't know that. Evidence really doesn't mean very much. And it's just like it's an alternate universe. So Mommy's Heart, I kind of modeled it after the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital model. I've done a lot of work for different causes over the years and organized and chaired many, many events. So I have a lot of experience in this area, but we formed this foundation because there was a need. We had to. We had a lot of interest from donors and people who wanted to get involved with this cause. And there's no organization like it. At the time, I was hosting a toy drive for a 501c4, and people were coming to me saying, you have to start a 501c3 because we need to collect these donations. And there's obviously different tax incentives for a 501c3. So that's how it came about. The story, it's all inspired by my personal story, and the mothers who are on my board. We have a doctor, physician in the Upper East Side here, who also has supervised visits with her daughter, and same thing. She married a very powerful, connected finance Wall Street man, and that's all I can say. But we're doing well. We're garnering a lot of awareness, and we have a great list of experts and celebrities and doctors, lawyers. So we're very excited. We're doing a lot of great work. We had a fantastic first fundraiser, our inaugural event, and we did well for a first event. We raised a lot of money. We have a lot of interest from some high profile philanthropists and businessmen and women, and getting a lot of wonderful collaborations and partnerships coming our way. So we're very, very hopeful, very excited.
And to describe what you really want to put together as far as a team goes. What do you want the foundation to look like from the inside?
Yeah, well, we are focusing on the legal services, because I realize you really can't get anything done without legal representation, a licensed attorney representing you in court to get it done. So that's the bulk of our expense, really, paying these lawyers. And my thought was, so right now we have approximately between like 7 and 10 mothers who are kind of involved in Mommy's Heart right now. And we obviously there's so many more mothers now that need to be served, and as we grow bigger and bigger, we'll be able to help more and more people, but it's all a matter of funding. So I was thinking of having perhaps Charles, and he, I know you work closely together and you have a lot of experience as well, of course, excellent credentials. And I was hoping, perhaps you both would be interested in maybe spearheading our legal department and training. I guess you would kind of spearhead the department. So it would be a matter of perhaps I could be able to get some pro bono attorneys locally here in New York who could partner with you. But you two would be like the masterminds of the operation and direct the trajectory. And we'd have some people here on the ground to argue, to make the oral arguments.
I was going to be silent, but I feel like I've got to kind of jump in here and say, what do you think about the problems that, I mean, Jerry and I have between us, I don't know how many decades of legal experience, but neither of us, Jerry is a licensed advocate and counselor in the Blackfeet Nation. I used to be lawyer coast to coast, but I'm not anymore. And what Jerry and I have in common is a commitment to change in the legal system. And have you thought about how difficult it might end up being to get licensed attorneys to accept a role of changing the system as their primary goal? And what do you think of that? And Jerry, I mean, feel free to jump in and comment on what you think the difficulties might be.
Well, well, my goal in life at the moment is to break the monopoly of the Bar Association. I think you should be able to go get your best lawyer in New York City if you want, or you can go get your neighbor to help you if you want. I don't think you should be restricted to one guild in order to help you save your family. I think it's wrong. I think it's horrible. When I started, probably about 1982, 1983, I got together with a group called Children's Rights for Parents. And we lobbied for and got passed a bill in Montana to say that joint custody was presumed to be in the best interest of the children, all other things being equal. And while it's no longer the law in the books in Montana, the courts now normally go to joint custody if other things are equal. In your case, I don't know if other things are equal. I don't know if he deserves any custody, but maybe he does. I don't know. When I got my children, I had a licensed attorney help me. And then after that, then the cult that I took, that had him hid, they kept coming over when she had a weekend visitation, they'd come over and take them out and do their cult-like things on them, and get them say their rosary or whatever. I don't know, maybe you're Catholic, so maybe that's.
I am Catholic, actually, but I mean, we're Christian, so.
Well, anyhow, her faith took and hid my kids away from me, so I couldn't. They had our dog with them, and the dog was found in one of the neighbors' house, and they reported to the veterinarian from the collar. And anyhow, I found where they were. But anyhow, that was before the divorce, and that's when I found out that they were making the kids look at the floor on the ride to the school and things like that. Anyhow, I got custody of my kids, and she got 30 days in the summer and every other weekend, which is kind of used to be a normal thing. And so after I got my kids, then I helped try to change the system so it was both parents had time with the children, both parents had input in the children. I don't think one parent normally, unless they're right now. I've got in the last month or last 2 months, I've had 3 cases, I believe, where the husband was narcissistic, the father was narcissistic, and in that case, I don't believe they should have that much. They should have some time with the child, but not that kind of time with them.
You mean narcissistic? Are you saying narcissistic or narcissistic, like narcissistic personality disorder, narcissistic?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, like when you live in a big city with a lot of ambitious and Machiavellian type people, there's a lot of narcissists in big cities.
Well, so far the mothers of these children, I've got them to have custody and have the father have supervised visits, or visits on the telephone, things like that. And hopefully maybe they'll get over their narcissism and maybe they'll tell the kids more time. I don't know. But right now I think I've been pretty fortunate. It's worked out pretty good for them considering.
Is that Toby?
Yeah, so
Is that Toby down there? I mean,
that's Toby.
he sounds irritated.
Oh, the poor dog doesn't have a treat.
Sounds like my son when he's hungry, but he's in bed now, so it's not him.
10:30 there, huh?
Yeah.
Jerry, I mean, I don't know. You say you've been pushing for supervised visitation?
Or when the father is narcissistic, yes.
I mean, I'm just a little bit curious. What do you mean by narcissism? I hear.
When the father
I hear-
says he's going to kill himself if he doesn't get his way, that's narcissism as far as I know. And that's
Yeah.
when the father takes pills and goes out in the hills and calls her on the cell phone and says, "Hey, I've taken these pills. I'm gonna die." And these, I don't know, whatever, give me my way or whatever it is. That's narcissism.
That wouldn't have been what Julianne, how do you understand the term narcissism? Jerry is dropping a syllable there, but
I studied a little
Narcissism.
school. I do have my LMSW. I did study clinical social work at Columbia. If graduated in 2017. I mean, look, I don't consider myself an expert. You know, I'm learning every day, but I feel like I've had a lot of experience with narcissists, but they tend to lack empathy. They are not remorseful. They have no guilt. They do things shamelessly. I mean, they will lie to you. They're usually pathological liars. They're usually serial cheaters, and that kind of goes with the territory. They're really secretly very insecure people, narcissists, because they never felt enough love at some point in their life, like their childhood. A lot of them were damaged from abuse or any kind of invalidating environment growing up. And they need love, attention, love, love, love. And it's never enough. That's why they have multiple women or partners, and they lie. They can't face the truth. They can't take accountability for their actions. They gaslight, which is a very common they manipulate, they lie, and they gaslight, and they make their partner feel constantly belittled, demeaned, devalued, because it bolsters their ego. And the more they can break someone else down, the more powerful they feel. It's almost like they're vampires, like energy, emotional vampires, because they suck that and they drain your whole essence. You feel broken, you feel deteriorated. Being with a narcissist is very, very difficult because you never feel like anything that you do is enough, and you never satisfy them because they never can be satisfied. It is just a deficit in their either emotional maturity or brain development, whether it's genetics or environmental factors or a combination of both. It's a fascinating subject matter, and I've been, reading a lot about it over the past few years.
Well, the ones I'm dealing with have been abusive to their other woman, to the mother of the child, and they've gotten her with guns and they've hit them in the stomach or hit them. And I don't know, maybe that's not narcissistic, but it's sure not a good way to live a life and get along with.
Absolutely, it's a common characteristic of a narcissist to be abusive, physically, emotionally, psychologically. It's all part of the same thing. And I read that there's 3 different types of narcissists. Now, again, I am not an expert, so I don't want to be quoted here, but I read about the overt, the covert, and the malignant narcissist. So the malignant narcissist is like the worst kind of narcissist. It is your personal, he or she is like your personal terrorist. They are the type who will just relentlessly sue you in court, or just they're obsessed with making your life miserable, and they will go to the ends of the earth to do that. And they can be very dangerous, and they could kill, they could do a lot of damage. An overt narcissist is like a very, very like someone who will, and I know somebody who is a self-proclaimed narcissist who will actually say, yeah, I'm a narcissist. I have a very strong sense of entitlement. I believe that I can, I'm entitled to do whatever I want to do without any, negative consequences. And then there's the covert narcissist, which is interesting. And I guess there are people like this, but the covert narcissist is truly a narcissist, but somebody who tries to mask that narcissist by doing a lot of appearingly altruistic acts like philanthropy or volunteer work, things like that. So that's what I read about 3 types of narcissists. Then I read that there are, so in the DSM-5, there's this diagnosis called antisocial personality disorder, which is sort of, I guess, an umbrella for the sociopaths and the psychopaths. Now, there's a little bit of confusion on is a social, like, because sociopath and psychopath are very often used at this, they're used interchangeably very, very often. And a lot of people think they're the same. And it's still like, it's still a little, I've spoken to many psychiatrists and they all tell me different things. But from what I understand, the psychopath is supposed to be, they say that psychopaths are born and sociopaths are made. So a psychopath, I've been told that there's really nothing that you can do like to really help a psychopath. It's like they've got like true like physical deficits in their brain. I don't know, but if they say it shows up in a brain scan. And then sociopaths are kind of shaped through more of the environment, just like invalidating experiences in their environment. And then psychopaths are more likely to commit white collar crimes. And they're also like your typical like serial killer type person, like a very sophisticated, evil doing person, right? And then a sociopath is more like they're the ones who tend to go back to prison a lot. Like they'll commit a lot of crimes. They're not as sophisticated, not as, maybe don't have as high an IQ as a psychopath. But that's my understanding of it from what I've been reading about it. It's really interesting.
So anyhow, some of those people should not have a 50-50 joint custody arrangement. That
All right, quick question, everybody. Single issue, one word answer. Which was a better first, Jerry? I think I know his answer to this, but which is a better president, Trump or Biden?
We're live, so I better be careful.
Jerry, which is a better president, Trump or Biden?
I think Trump.
Julianne, who's a better president, Trump or Biden?
I mean, I just said we're live, and I don't want to get into trouble. I mean, do I have to answer that question? Isn't it pretty obvious?
The fact that I might agree with or disagree with your answer doesn't make it obvious to most people, because I'm going somewhere with this that's relevant to our discussion. So I want to hear your answer.
I mean, truthfully, aside from, I see the inflation. I see there. I mean, I'm a single mom. Okay, so these things trickle down to me, and it affects me personally.
I said I want a single word answer.
Oh, simple word. Oh, sorry.
Trump or Biden?
It's just everything is deteriorated. The inflation, the interest rates, like the economy is just, the war in Ukraine. The world's a mess since Biden.
Your Honor, will you instruct the witness to answer the question? Do you ever get judged?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is bad. This is why I'm a horrible witness. No, Trump is. Trump is a better president. In my
okay. Is there any doubt in either of your minds that Trump is a narcissist? Jerry?
I would not say he's a level person. I don't know if narcissist is it. I don't think narcissism is it. I think it's something else. He's very self-centered. He's got a lot of ego. That I think when I was in the legislature, I found that most of the people around me had a lot of ego, or they wouldn't be in the legislature.
Interesting point. Is it possible? Is it possible? I mean, Julianne, what do you think? Was Trump a narcissist?
I can't diagnose him, but I feel that many people feel that he meets a lot of traits of a narcissist. But may I just add one thing that might actually add some clarification here? A psychiatrist told me that the difference between a narcissist and narcissistic personality disorder, a lot of people can be narcissistic. You know, a lot of us can be selfish at times, and some are more severe than others, obviously. But the personality disorder is the more dangerous one, because someone with narcissistic personality disorder, and the reason why I know this is because he mentioned this regarding someone I know, and it's that kind of person who is willing to spite themselves just to prove a point. They're almost willing to cut off their arm in order to make that other person suffer. So they will make irrational choices. So in a way that they hurt their own family, their own children. Like, for example, men who weaponize the family court system and use their own child as a pawn. They're willing to go broke, spending every penny they have just to prove a point. And also they're hurting their own child, making their own child suffer just to get revenge on the mother they feel slighted by. So that is kind of the idea behind the irrationality of it all, like with the personality disorder versus maybe someone like President Donald Trump, who many say is narcissistic, but for him, being a leader, that could be to his advantage because he's very strong and he's very self-confident and he's determined, and he doesn't really care what other people think, which is sometimes what you need in a strong leader.
Is it possible that strong leaders make good fathers?
I think so. Look, I don't, we can't really know. I understand that his children seem to be fine. They seem to be well brought up children. And I think if there's a loving mother involved, that certainly helps, because I think kids need a balance. They certainly need that nurturing part of growing up and being parented. And if you have a father who might be a little stern, that could be okay, I think. But I think the balance is really important, to have that love and nurture.
On a biblical mother that submits herself to the husband.
Yin and the yang.
That's what the Bible says. I don't know.
Well, I was expressing to Julianne the other night my absolute disgust with the whole template of psychology and psychiatry, and this discussion really, I think, illustrates the problems that I see in it. Jerry, when you were fighting I believe it was the cult of Our Lady of Fatima,
Uh-huh.
when you were fighting for custody of your kids because of the involvement of the cult of Our Lady of Fatima, do I understand correctly that your children were being told that they were sinful and that they should quote unquote mortify their flesh and flagellate themselves and basically treat themselves very poorly?
I'm not sure what they were told. I know I went, in order to see my children, I had to go to instructions, and instructions told about people wearing hair shirts under their clothes, and their scapulars were made out of wool so that they irritate them in order to keep them whatever. But my children were taught that I was the devil, uh, which I didn't think was a real good thing to teach them. And some
That you
of
were
them,
that you were the devil.
Oh
That
my-
you were the devil, actually.
well, of the devil or whatever. I'm not sure that being of the devil or being the devil is much difference. But anyhow, they were taught that I was a bad guy.
Interesting. Do you think that it was your courage to believe that you were right when these so-called experts were wrong that made you perhaps a superior parent? I realize that's a leading question, but
Maybe what?
do you feel that you were a superior parent to those who were advocating that kind of mortification and self-degradation?
I don't know if I'm a superior parent or not. I'm glad how things turned out. It was quite a battle, but right now I have 5 kids and 14 grandkids, and none of them, as far as I know, are on drugs, and none of them smoke cigarettes, as far as I know. And the only 2 of them went to public schools. They went to private schools or of my grandkids. My kids went to public schools, but I'm pretty happy how my family's turned out. It's better than what I was when I was a kid. I
I
I
guess
drank, smoked cigarettes, and I chased after women and all sorts of whatever. So no, I'm happy with my kids and my grandkids. I think I've got 12 or 14 and 5 is 19 lovely people there.
You're very blessed.
Mhm.
I see that sign in the back, and you are very, very blessed.
Yes, I am.
Well, I'm just trying to get it. I mean, I am so disturbed by the diversity of characteristics of a narcissist that Julianne listed, and a very long list. And then you focus in on something that, when you were talking about your recent clients, that didn't even, it sounds weird. It sounds like very manipulative, destructive behavior, but it didn't really sound like anything that I've ever heard defined as narcissism. And Julianne always likes to use this word, weaponize the courts. And would either of you say that a term as broad and subject to as many diverse applications as the term narcissist seems to have could easily be weaponized by anybody against anybody?
Well, I don't know. When I go to, I'm, it's been a long time since I took psychology in college, and I only took 1/4 of it. I guess they told me I did good. I got an A out of it, but that doesn't mean much. But I find my definition of narcissism is out of Wikipedia. And according to that definition, these fathers are narcissists, narcissistic, that when they hold guns to their wives' heads or beat them up or go out and threaten to commit suicide if they don't get their own way. I think that's narcissistic. And I think that in order to stop them from getting the children and going out and killing them and the children, I think that supervised visits is probably a good idea until they get straightened out.
Julianne, does that sound like what you would define as narcissism?
Not entirely, because there's a lot of disorders that can involve suicidal ideation, including well, bipolar disorder, what's that other thing? Another personality disorder. It's very, very difficult to treat. Borderline personality disorder, bipolar. So borderline personality disorder, it kind of sounds a little bit like some of those scenarios you could be describing. Now, again, like there's so many other elements that go into diagnosing something like that. But I do know that some people with that disorder, they're very attention seeking, and suicide and harming oneself, self-destructive behavior is a large part of the that personality disorder, the borderline. With narcissism, it's more to me what really like I think is what really engenders narcissism is the lack of empathy. That's like a very, very like strong, I mean, that's like across the board. All narcissists, they really lack empathy, and psychopaths and sociopaths are invariably narcissists, but not the other way around. But they are all narcissists, and they lack empathy, which is required, to be a human being, to be a compassionate human being. So that's what enables them to commit these heinous crimes and to abuse people and kill people.
I guess I'm really not worried about the definition of whether they meet the definition. I'm worried of what they do to the kids and what they do to their other significant other, their partners. And
Well, all right, then why use this term at all if you're not worried about the definition?
because I was right on it, but you guys aren't. So anyhow.
Well, I wanted to step in. I think the concern is obviously if anyone is threatening harm to themselves or to others, that's clearly an acute risk that they're presenting to themselves or their children. Because if they're threatening to kill themselves, and if they're capable of harming themselves, they're capable of harming other people, and that's
Right.
a very serious threat. And as a mandated reporter, anybody who says that they are thinking about or threatening to kill themselves, I mean, that warrants a call to 911. That is imminent. That presents imminent risk.
Now, there's very little difference between suicide and homicide. They
Yeah.
go real close together.
Yeah. It's true. They
So anyhow,
Okay, I just want to, in terms of using terms and figuring out what should be done in the courts, is it a sin to kill another person?
to kill another person? I couldn't find the person I wanted to kill, but anyhow,
There's, I mean, I want to sort of go to a different standard because psychology, of course, and psychiatry are both based on the Greek word for the soul, psyche. And it seems, I mean, I have this horrible opinion that psychiatrists and psychologists who come up with this term are basically witch doctors, and that they're engaged in a very much a pseudoscience, and religion was originally a kind of way of treating maladies of the soul. And I mean, the Sixth Commandment says that it's a sin to kill, for one person to kill another person, right? And somewhere along the line, at least by Prince Hamlet's time, it was established that the Almighty had set his hand against self-slaughter. And is it more useful to talk about narcissism or sin?
where are we going with this conversation? What does this have to do with divorce and the court system?
Standards, legal standards for awarding custody, and whether, I mean, you both started out by saying that psychological evaluations are very important in divorce and custody decisions.
I
And
didn't say that.
well, okay, but you said that supervised visitation was appropriate for narcissists, and you define narcissists as
I
people.
didn't say anything about a psychological evaluation. I'm talking about their actions.
Okay, but then you're making a non, but you're making your own psychological evaluation.
Well,
Using a
psychologists that testify in court are prostitutes. They testify for the person that pays them.
well, isn't that true of most lawyers also?
Most lawyers also.
Okay, I mean, so psychologists and lawyers and those who use terms invented by psychologists or lawyers are all involved in weaponizing the court system.
Well,
True or false?
I don't know the answer to this, but it seems to me that Julianne got somebody that did not know how to give her relation to the court, so they understood what was going on with the children and the husband and the father. I think she got a bad mouthpiece, and I think that's because of the monopoly in the bar association. I think if it had been a free market and helping somebody in court, I think she would have fared much better than what she did.
I really didn't even have an attorney at the time this whole thing happened. It was like the perfect storm, and it was like a sneak attack. So the timing was impeccable, and I didn't have an attorney. I didn't even know what was going on. And then I didn't even have a trial, so I had no opportunity to even present my side of the story or any evidence or testimony, witnesses, nothing. It's the most, and that's a violation of constitutional.
You needed an advocate to be with you at that time, and the system did not allow you to have one. They out of price, out of range in the price, or out of whatever, and that's the monopoly. And I think the monopoly is horrible. My goal in life is to break the monopoly.
It's so true. That's what we want to do as well at Mommy's Heart, because when I was seeking help, I qualified financially. I qualified because I was, TV status, and they looked up my case and they said, yes, you qualify. However, we don't have enough attorneys. And this is, Legal Aid Society, Sanctuary for Families. These are big aid. I went to every Safe Haven, Safe Horizons, every single agency. They said, your ex is too litigious, he's too wealthy, he's too connected, he's too many resources, you've been in litigation for 5 years, and even if we did have enough resources and enough attorneys to represent you, we are worried that we will go bankrupt just on your case alone. That's what they told me. And that is not reassuring at all.
Do you think they were crazy?
You needed somebody like Charles to help you, or me to help you.
I wish I had.
For us to do for you. So
I know. I wish I had met Charles and you both years ago.
Well, I think we're coming up on. Oh, I think we've actually passed 2 months, 60 days that we've actually known each other.
You're my memory, Charles, because you have a great memory, and it's good that you remember all.
Well, I happen to remember that it was March 16th when you called. Yes.
My mind doesn't work that way.
Very impressive.
I keep very close track of the calendar. What can I say? It's something very important to me. But I'm just fascinated with the whole relationship between society and classification and law, and that's why I'm pursuing this issue, because mental health analysis does appear to play a very great role in the evaluation of custody and divorce questions. I mean, I'll confide something. about myself. During my divorce, roughly 20 some odd years ago, it went on for a long time, but anyhow, that's typical, I guess. People called me a narcissist. And I've never tried to kill anybody. I've never tried to kill myself. Well, actually, I considered once killing myself, but that's fairly recently. And I've told Jerry the story. I can tell you the story too. I went to a great deal of trouble a couple of years ago to get some cement blocks and chains and walk down by the side of the Mississippi River. And I came right up to the Mississippi River, and it smelled so horrible that I couldn't go into it.
Well, that means that you had a will to live, because if you did not have a will to live, if your will was stronger to die, you would have jumped in. And thank God you didn't.
You have no idea how bad the Mississippi River smells.
I bet. No, I take that back. I know we were talking about how homicide and suicide can be. Sometimes I feel if someone has violent tendencies, yeah, those can be kind of blurred lines. But I think that we also should take seriousness and have some sensitivity to those who do suffer with depression, like Judd, Naomi Judd, who passed away. And mental health awareness. And there are people and dear friends of mine I know who do suffer very, very much with depression, and they're kind, gentle souls. And I don't believe for a second they would ever be homicidal. It's more of like an internal kind of suffering. But sometimes, of course, with like more severe cases of like, personality disorders, those can present, I guess, danger to people too.
I mean, in your case, Julianne, I don't think I've probably sent some of the material in your case to Jerry, but I've probably read more of it than he has. Basically these summations that were presented so far, basically involve mudslinging. Your ex doesn't accuse you of being a narcissist, but he sort of, I guess, I don't really know what he's saying about you, but basically that you are so hopelessly irresponsible and hopelessly scattered that it would be a total disaster to allow you to have any interest in or power over your daughter's life at all. And this, at least for the moment, appears to be a winning position in the New York family courts for the borough of Manhattan. And I find that just, it is so astounding. I mean, Jerry, you really ought to read this, because it is, I mean, a certain narcissist by the name of Donald Trump used to talk about fake news all the time. Well, this is fake law and fake argument. It is just, the only way I can really describe it is totally content free.
Well, I wanted to just intervene there for a second, Charles, because it's funny, because the people who, well, like Carl, I'm sorry, I'm not going to mention names. The attorneys who are making those positions.
I think the name of these people has been in the New York papers, so don't worry.
I'm not going to be the one to talk about it, though. But the position that these two lawyers have taken, I mean, it's been very obvious to my previous counsel and from other third parties, including Child Protective Services and other third-party agencies, that there's a lot of malfeasance and possibly collusion and payoffs, because the attorney for the child was aligned with my ex from the very, very beginning, supported every single one of his motions to transfer custody away from me to him, even when he was testing positive for cocaine. So that alone says it all. And none of it makes any sense because ACS endorsed me to have custody of our child. And I was never subject to any child protective proceeding, but the manipulation and the way everything had just been like, and it all really began when certain people were hired. And once these certain people were hired as attorneys and advisors to my adversary, he was able to turn everything around. Just it took years and millions of dollars, but he was able to turn everything around.
So that kind of shows that I was right when I call these psychologists and psychiatrists to be prostitutes.
Hired guns. Yeah.
No,
Okay, how would you, okay, Jerry, since you all are on this angle now, how could you create a system where they wouldn't, where the people that people hire, the representatives or advocates would not be prostitutes? How would you structure a system where I don't know. Let's think about a case that I'm involved in New Orleans.
Let's not insult prostitutes now because they sell their bodies, not their souls. So let's not insult the prostitutes.
I was going somewhere else. Just you know, I mean, prostitutes.
I told you the answer to your question already. What I would do to fix the system is break the monopoly of the bar so that you go out and you hire the best person, not the best person from that law school.
All right. Cicero, Marcus Tullius Cicero in ancient Rome, he never went to law school, and they didn't have a bar system at that point in history. He always spoke on behalf of the people he was representing.
Right.
You, I presume, always speak on behalf of the people you are representing. I typically speak on behalf of the people I represent. But I know a case here in New Orleans where a lawyer has filed papers in a court saying that he finds despicable and offensive the degree to which his client wishes him to follow her wishes and her goals in litigation. Is that superior to representatives being as bound to provide good representation as prostitutes are to provide good sex? I mean, is it okay to turn against? Is it okay to turn against the person who's paying you and say that they're totally wrong and tell the judge that they are?
I don't think so.
Okay, why not? Because we were talking about prostitutes, and I mean, a prostitute is basically a person who provides a certain kind of service on demand and is judged based on performance.
I would say the psychologists and psychiatrists are more the prostitute than the attorney is. Because
okay, but you're avoiding my question. How could we have a system where Julianne, did you hear anything I was saying?
Yeah.
I mean, is it okay not to provide the service you were paid to provide, licensed or unlicensed, professional or amateur? If you pay someone to represent you, is it okay if that person turns against you and says that your position is simply despicable?
If we were in a free market system, that attorney would not last.
The family court system is too incestuous. The judges, the attorneys for the children, all of these attorneys, the ACS attorneys, they're all working together on the same cases. They have they have several hundreds of they have hundreds of cases together. I see them talking amongst themselves about so many other cases in which they're involved. So I feel like it's too close. It's too insular. There's no regulation. There's no transparency. The courtrooms are closed. They don't like the press. They don't like anyone recording. People can change court document captions. People can omit evidence. They can change the history, and there's no checks and balances. There's no accountability.
That sounds rather like sin to me.
I don't know how some of these people can sleep at night, especially knowing that they're harming innocent children. It's one thing, when you're dealing with adults, but these children, they don't deserve to suffer like this. It is the worst sin crime I can even fathom, hurting a child.
Well, how do we, how do we fix human error? Jerry, how are the errors that we're describing here? Favoritism, cronyism, these are not limited to the courts.
I've told you 3 or 4 times how to do it the same way. Get some competition there.
Okay, but no, but the cronyism exists in lots of aspects of human life that are outside the law. I mean, I will freeing up people who don't have law degrees to appear in court, or who can't be approved by a state bar because they're disrespectful for judges, for example. How will you keep those people from engaging in cronyism and deciding cases in favor of their friends, and then betraying the people that occasionally betraying the people that they're paid to represent because they happen to be friends with an opposing counsel or his clients, or the client's protege who's about to become the next attorney general, or things like that?
Well, if you have an open market in it, you have a choice, and the people will actually get the best people for their job if they have a choice. But when you have everybody has to come out of a law school, you lose a choice into one type of person. Sometimes it'd be nice to have your neighbor go help you in court. It might be a lot better than that attorney that doesn't know you. This parent should be able to go help their kid if they're capable of it. When you put a monopoly in there, you get the worst of the help, not the best of help.
But government agencies are a monopoly, aren't they?
What is?
Government agencies, how do you circumvent that?
Julianne, I was about to ask almost exactly the same question. Because I was thinking, one of my degrees is in anthropology, and anthropologists have defined the state in human cultural evolution as the social organization where one group of people gets the monopoly of violence over all other people. The government is it's very clear in the United States that the government arrogates to itself the right to shoot us, but we are criminals if we shoot back. That is the fundamental feature of what we call the law. And by the same token, we aren't supposed to judge for ourselves. You you started off by saying that most of the people, most of the mothers in your group have been deprived of their rights because they
Right.
are guilty of parental alienation. And what is parental alienation other than you, as a mother, passing judgment on the actions of someone else?
And I didn't even pass
No,
judgment.
no, 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 no. Never mind whether you did or not. That's not really important. The concept is that you have no right to judge the father of your daughter or his behavior.
Well, I think the
You-
idea of the true parental alienation is when you attempt to poison the child's mind against the other parent. So, saying things to the child like, "Oh, your daddy's evil," or "Your daddy's a liar," "Your daddy's a bad man," or a parent who doesn't facilitate visits or who misses visits, doesn't take the child to see her father. Um, None of those things apply to my case, but that is my idea of what true parental alienation is. And
but it basically comes down to the issue that I mean, we had this discussion at once, and I want to have it again and again and again until we figure it out. But what if let's take a truly extreme case, and Jerry, you comment on this. What if the father of your child turned out to be Ted Bundy? No change in facts except this is the actual father of your child. Are you permitted to be a good mother and saying, look, your father was a serial killer, a mass murderer, and the state of Florida put him to death because of his unrepented series of crimes? Does that make you a bad mother?
can I answer that, Charles?
I asked you, so yes, you can answer.
I have been very, very conflicted in many different situations. Many situations have saddened me very deeply because I think it's extremely important for a child to feel like they have a good mother and a good father, because I think it's very difficult for a young brain, an undeveloped brain, to process why people do things. And I think children have a tendency to internalize and blame themselves and think that there's something wrong with them if they feel there's something wrong with either parent. And I speak from personal experience. So, and I've seen both ends of it, So for me, as a responsible mother, I think the best thing that I could do is to not say anything negative about my child's father, because my child is a gift. My child is an angel from heaven, right? So that's one good thing that father did. He brought an angel, God's child, to this earth, okay? And it's my job to nurture and care and raise that child and make that child the best he or she can be. If my child asked me about his or her father and why his or her father did certain things, I would just say, sweetheart, look, we all have our own struggles. We all have our own journey in life, and we are all met with different challenges. And your father had certain challenges. I have certain challenges. You have certain challenges. I was raised to believe that we can't pass judgment. Only God can judge. So I would just leave it at that. I would say some people are ill. Some people really suffer emotionally and internally, and that's their own, karmic path. That's their own journey, and it's not really in our place to judge them.
Jerry,
I agree.
is there any lasting impact that you've seen on your children from your ex's associates in the church calling you either the devil or possessed by the devil or something. Did that have any lasting effects?
Yes. Mhm.
Tell me about it. What were
I'm
the
not
lasting
going to tell you
effects?
about it.
Huh?
I'm not going to tell you about it.
Okay. All right. But you basically agree then that that parents should not pass any kind of judgment on their children because it will have lasting effects.
They should be real careful what they talk about their other parent.
Okay. How is that different in effect from a third party, a judge passing judgment on parents?
A child has more, will believe their parent more than they will a judge.
As a social structure, is part of the problem that we give judges great power to evaluate performance, which they have never seen or in some cases experienced. The judge presiding over Julianne's case, for instance, is a gay male who I assume has no children. And is that rational? Is it rational for the system to put that kind of power in one person?
Why do you think I'm telling you that we need some choice there? We don't want a monopoly there to say where the judge is going to be. We want a choice of some good people to be judges, not some law school yahoo.
Why don't we just boycott the courts? Or why don't we just have agreements in place that stipulates mediation and prohibits any court involvement? Isn't there any way to do that, like legally, to get
Well, most people that come to me for my help, I mediate. I've mediated hundreds of divorce cases, and the children that I've talked to now that it's been 30, 40 years I've been doing that, the children seem to be happy with what they ended up with. That they do good in school and they do good in their life and whatever. But some cases, mediation won't work. If you have some guy that wants to go out and tell the spouse that he's going to kill himself if she doesn't lick his whatever, if he doesn't get his own way, or some gal that does similar thing, then mediation doesn't work. The people that come to me normally, they want their marriage isn't working. They want to get done with their marriage, and they want to continue life after that. And most of them don't want to cut the other parent out of their kid's life. When you go to court, then you more people in court want to cut the other parent out of their kid's life than people that come to me for mediation. They come to me, the two of them will come to me to help split the property and determine how they're going to share the children. And that's what I do. It's not to, maybe one works at night and one other works in the day. So maybe the one that works at night gets the kids in the day, and the other gets the night. It's somehow there's ways to work out a whole bunch of things in the way I do it, but they come to me because they want to have a fair settlement, or a settlement anyhow, and be done with it. And they don't want to be into a court case for years to come.
Yeah, I've spoken to parents who are like, I think it's really, I mean, my parents they're still married, so I didn't have to grow up splitting my time between two homes. But like, I just feel like that's just a very disruptive way to live, to have to pack your bags and half the time at mom's, half the time at dad's, like being shuffled back and forth, back and forth. It just sounds just so confusing and disruptive. And I don't see why like the kids can't just stay in one spot and like, the father and mother, like the father could live across the street. I mean, in an ideal world, and just come and see the kids like every day, whenever he wants. And I mean, I'd be willing to do that. I'd be willing to do anything just to be with my children. I even said to one, just hire me as the babysitter. I won't even say a word. I'll just be in the back seat taking care of the baby. I just want to be with my children. That's all. And it'd be nice if I could have a big house and all the exes come over. And in an ideal world, that would be great. And I wish it could be like that for everybody. But it is 11:35 here, and I am going to have to go to sleep.
Yeah, I think it's kind of.
Well, Julianne, you're amazing, and thank you for joining us tonight. And we've got to do this again because we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. And I remind you that you were the one who wanted to start late.
No, I know. It was totally I know. I know.
But anyhow, thank you so much, Julianne. Good night. And Jerry, thank you. I know it's past your bedtime too. And we're going to do this again because this was an exceptionally interesting and intelligent conversation we had. I hope you all agree. I mean, I'm not counting anything that I said.
You guys are intelligent enough. That's asking me quite a bit for me. But anyhow.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.